Hey guys, you're listening to the Be Bold, Be Birmingham podcast. We're here to dance to the beat of Brum's drum. We're here to sing the soul of our city. Birmingham 2022 is just around the corner, and I'm here to tell you about the amazing things happening in Birmingham. My name is Melzy J, and I'm your host for Be Bold, Be Birmingham, and my co-host Benjamin.
Hello, hey Melzy, how you doing? You okay?
I know, how are you? We're back on Zoom again.
Back on Zoom, and let me tell you, it's very windy outside. But listeners, fear not. If you hear the wind, I am inside. I won't get blown away. Hopefully,
It, Hopefully not. I mean, your
Mm.
hair shows that you've been outside in the wind,
I've
but
gone for a windswept look. Yeah.
that's another conversation. We have some amazing guests today. We've got Taran Singh. He is the founder and CEO of Taran 3D, a group of designers specializing in interactive wizardry to help communicate products and ideas in the modern world. And we've also got Clayton Shaw, program manager for Steamhouse, a collaborative space for businesses and startups propelling innovation in the city. How are you?
Good, thanks. Yeah, great. Nice to be
Doing
Good.
here.
great.
Thanks for inviting us.
Well, thanks for coming. Yeah, well, we wanted to do something on innovation in the city, and I think we thought who better? And I can see Taran, you've got an array of well, I can definitely see something that looks like 3D. I don't know what you'd call it. What's going on that head behind you?
Yeah, so I've got a VR headset here that we use
Excellent.
for a lot of our VR applications that we create. But I've also got some 3D printed sculptures that I've created as well. So some of the work that we were able to do.
It's really cool. We're going to touch on that a little bit later, but I thought it'd be cool because it's a brave new world, isn't it? I tried to read up on some things about the metaverse and things like that, and to me, these words are just I'm trying to find out what on earth's going on. It's complicated for a small brain like I've got. And what you both do is quite difficult to sum up. So we thought maybe it might be better to hand that job over to you guys. So I don't know, Clayton, whether you can explain what Steamhouse is in your own words.
Yeah, I'll explain what Steamhouse is. I'm actually really pleased that I'm on the panel with, or in this podcast with Taran, because I feel like he brings a bit of cool to the likes of Steamhouse, to some of the dryness that I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. But I mean, Taran's been a member of Steamhouse, and he can talk about that. But yeah, we've been running a Steamhouse activity for some years now. We had a centre based in 𝗣𝗥𝗢𝗨. That's where we first met Taran, actually, down on the High Street, which we opened in 2018. It's now closed, but during the time that we were there, we were able to essentially play and use it as a giant testing ground and sandpit and prototyping centre almost. So it's really brought together creative industries. It's brought together other sectors from like the life sciences, or it might be from the low carbon economy, and bring together a whole range of people from a whole range of disciplines and backgrounds to support one another, collaborate, and also really try and push the boundaries of innovation. So yeah, that's what we want to try and do over the longer term, and hence why we've got this fantastic new building, which is about to open at some point early this year.
Yeah, so I just before we started recording, I was chatting to Clayton there because I had I'd gone for a walk at night around by Millennium Point in Birmingham, and I looked up, and there was Steamhouse really high up. There's a massive building, almost like a steeple. It's really tall, and right on it is the light that lights up and says Steamhouse. And then I thought, well, I can ask him a few more questions about that when I speak to him later on in the week. So yeah, thanks for that, Clayton. Taran, what about you? What is Taran 3D all about?
Yeah, so essentially we are a 3D design agency, and we work mainly with immersive technologies. So we provide immersive virtual solutions for companies, and especially during the pandemic, where businesses couldn't get their customers to the environment, or they couldn't get their product to their customers. We were able to do that virtually. So that's one thing we do, but we've also sort of created another division of our business where we actually starting to teach immersive technologies and trying to make it as accessible as possible for younger people and new users and new audiences.
Because it feels
Sounds
like this
amazing.
is, yeah, this is the way things are going, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what it feels like to me anyway, you know, when I mention all these scary words that we keep hearing on the news.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, you know, internet and social media has just gone really, really quickly and developed so much over the years that obviously during lockdown, a lot of people had to kind of rely on getting on the internet, using your phones, doing video calls. And for some people, that might just be basic use of your phone. But for some generations, that's a bit like, whoa, what am I doing here? How do you think businesses were affected through lockdown, and why do you think it's important for them to be able to access their customers via social media means? Taran?
Yeah, so I think the lockdown sort of accelerated the digitalization of business really in a way. I think people had to find new ways of working and sort of pivot their businesses. And I think it's kind of worked. It's some things have been positive, some things are negative. Obviously, we still need that sort of human connection, which is important. But I think that a lot of people have found very efficient ways of doing things which were either costing a lot of money over very complicated processes have been simplified. So I think in that sense, there's a lot of companies that are looking to sort of enter into this new sort of innovative practices, but they don't necessarily sort of understand what they are. So what we found is while we were trying to sort of sell immersive technology services, people didn't really understand what these technologies were or what they could do. So out of that kind of emerged our sort of education about it. And we actually did a program with Steamhouse called VR Birmingham, and we ran that for 6 months, and we did it together with Clayton and their team with Sophia. And it was really successful, where we just invited people in who had just come across VR and started using it. And these were people from the arts, people from theatre, people from the film industry who were using VR in really new and innovative ways. And that was really interesting, where people can actually see other people like themselves, and see how actually they've gone about it and they've experimented. And I think that's the really special thing about Steamhouse, is that you've got different people with different expertise, and they're able to sort of share it and collectively sort of experiment with each other's technologies and kind of help each other. And so out of it, like so many different cross-pollination of ideas, and really interesting projects. And one thing I really like about Steamhouse is that they've got this sort of art element to it as well. So it's not just all about technology, it's about people, and it's about being creative as well, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, I definitely want to touch on that in just a minute.
Yeah.
But Taran, I'm interested. Is sort of like modern technology, is that something that you've always been like pretty into, or is it quite a new thing for you?
Yeah, no, I think from a young age, I've always been into like games and animation and like, Star Wars and Star Trek and science fiction, and, technology and innovation is a big part of that, is like thinking about what could be. I mean, when we were younger, we used to think about, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if you had headphones without any cables? And now we've got that, yeah. And so, yeah, so that kind of drove sort of like the dreams of what we could create and what we could make. So I kind of grew up always sort of playing a lot of games, and I
Hmm.
love the kind of storytelling aspect of it and the creativity of it. So for me, I always wanted to be a sculptor. So like 3D modeling was easy to access for me. There was no sculptors around or no access to that sort of, art teaching. So I started 3D modeling and modding games. So a lot of my sort of, education came from trying and experimenting and, just doing things. And yeah, that's kind of like what got me into it, just
That's
modding games and learning how to like 3D model myself.
That's really
That's
interesting. So is that something that's quite easy? Is that something that's an easy step to find? But so say if you're a teenager playing loads of video games, loving that world, is it relatively what is the step to go from playing to
Yeah,
actually
it's
interacting and actually creating? You know?
Yeah. So when I was younger, it was a bit hard because the tools were quite clunky and hard to access. I mean, now it's such an amazing time for young people because, a lot of the software, the game engines are free now. You can download them. The 3D software is free. And you can usually find an open source alternative for, expensive packages or online alternatives. So, we encourage a lot of young people. We go to a lot of schools and we do like BBC Bite Size and events about innovation. And we tell a lot of young people that, look, gaming technology is being used in the aerospace industry, architectural industry, manufacturing. It's being used everywhere now, for interactive visualization, for animation, for planning, even for films now as well. You see TV shows like The Mandalorian, where they're using a game engine on a screen at the back, and the camera is tracked so they can edit it in real time. So really, if they're playing a game, they can go onto the website, download the Unreal Engine or the Unity engine, and just start learning from YouTube. And then you've got software like Blender for 3D modeling. And the great thing now is that there's such great communities out there, online communities, where they're sort of sharing skills and ideas, and there's forums where you can ask questions and you can learn from other people. And I've seen like some young people really thrive on this, being able, because they've got a lot of time on their hands, give them a bit of free software. They've got the creative ideas anyway, because they're watching this stuff on TV and playing these games. And yeah, just seeing them sort of like creating little animations and little models, it's, that's really where they can start to explore their creativity and start to think, actually, one day I could make films, or one day I could, work in, aerospace industry, designing something.
So actually, when my mum and dad were like, Ben, stop playing video games, actually they shouldn't have done. Maybe I could be more creative and have sat there and played for a little bit longer.
I actually say that to my parents, because like they always used to say to me, you play too much computer games, you should stop. And I said, well, what about now? Like I play with computer games every day now.
Yeah.
I know Steamhouse provides so many opportunities. Clayton, how do the 5 disciplines of science, tech, engineering, arts, and maths kind of complement each other at Steamhouse?
Yeah, it's a good question, and obviously it's the brand name for what we're working to with Steamhouse. It really is. It's a couple of things. One is, you've got that connection of those disciplines. So on the one hand, when you're looking at which has often been kind of referred to as the STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, and maths, very much from a policy level as well, around teaching within school and higher education and further education establishments. The arts often gets left aside, but what we found is that there's a greater sense of creativity among those disciplines if you can apply a creative discipline within that mix. So it lends itself more to the idea that you can add some creativity to innovation, because our starting point is around looking at how we can increase the capacity of innovation locally within the city and within the region, and building on the basis that the West Midlands and Birmingham particularly has a large creative industry sector. There is something to develop from that in terms of looking at how you can then adopt the creative industry's know-how and experience into developing innovation practices more broadly. So there's a logic to it in that sense. And also we use it as a bit of a metaphor as well. So it's not strictly connecting those disciplines for absolutely everything that we do, but it's also about bringing people from different walks of life, different backgrounds together that might come from different sectors. So you might have somebody that's coming from like a manufacturing organisation or an engineering organisation. So they might have more of an experiential viewpoint around that particular discipline. And they might then be connecting in with Taran to look at virtual reality 3D modelling, of a particular set of products or services that they might want to develop. So there's it's used quite broadly, but it's certainly around trying to encourage and position that creativity element into the broader STEM agenda.
Yeah, it's super interesting that the inclusion of arts into that STEM process. And am I right in thinking your background is in arts?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Can you tell us a
Well
little bit about
researched.
that? And how you thank you. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and the journey from where you were in the arts world and now where you are in Steamhouse?
Yeah, so I studied fine art actually at what was called the University of Central England, now called BCU. So now I'm working for the university that I studied at, which is an interesting journey. But I studied fine art at Margaret Street. I don't know if you're familiar with Margaret Street. Beautiful old building.
Stunning building, yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And one of the things that I was playing around with when I was doing my artistic study is the idea of connecting different, at that point, disciplines into the practice I was doing. This was a long time ago. This was like late 90s. I'm relatively old.
Oh, don't lie, Clayton. Come on.
We didn't have virtual reality at that point, and the likes of The Lawnmower Man wasn't even a film at that point, I don't think. We had some form of computing technologies and various things, and film cameras, etc. So I was pulling together different tools, creative tools to make art. So I was using film and sculpture together, or model making and print. Just kind of playing around with pushing the boundaries of certain artistic disciplines. So I suppose I always had a bit of an interest in merging boundaries, and then I kind of I never continued with my artistic practice. I do vouch that I'm going to continue at some point, or revisit it when I retire and have some time.
You never leave it though. The arts never leaves you.
Oh, no, it doesn't, because
it doesn't.
No, it doesn't, because I then had a career.
Taran, do you work in the metaverse? If so, can you tell me what on earth is going on, or what maybe out of this earth is going on?
I think metaverse, it's a relatively new term, and it's made popular by Facebook. It's like their interpretation of what will come next and what they're focusing on. But really, a lot of like gamers like myself, we've been doing metaverse for the last 15 years, which is online virtual spaces and collaborating and working and playing with each other. But what they see as the future is of the internet and the website is, rather than us going on a web page, is us being like a physical virtual space that we can walk into with avatars and be able to collaborate with each other. So that's kind of like what they've been talking about. But I mean, we were doing metaverse in 2011. I mean, we digitized the Shah Jahan Mosque, one of the oldest mosques in the country, in Woking. It was built by Dr. Leitner in the 1800s. So we actually digitized that in 2011. You could walk around it interactively online in 2011. So that is the kind of thing they're talking about. So while it's a relatively new term and it's on everyone's sort of, there's big buzz about it, like in it, people like myself, we're like, well, we've been doing that for years anyway. We've been talking about this for years anyway. But I think it's a good thing anyway that people are starting to think about different ways that they would like to access information online. So rather than you going onto a museum website and looking at artifacts and images, maybe you'd like to actually walk around a museum and look at these objects and get, audio, video feedback and be able to talk to somebody else about it, or somebody online presenting it to you. That's the way I see the metaverse, as more like a way to sort of make the internet more interesting and more interactive and more immersive. So that's what they're talking about. So for us, what our part of what we see the metaverse is, we've actually developed a new platform, and at the moment it's called multi-user learning rooms. Not a very catchy term yet, but what it is, it's like an online collaborative learning space. So you can go on a web page. We could all of us step into the page, step into a room at the same time. we can sort of look at objects, or we can look at products, we can look at an environment. I could take you on a tour of a virtual building that I've built. And things, we can interact with each other, we can do puzzles, we can play Jenga with each other in there. And so we're using it as sort of like a training tool. So we've actually got companies already using it at the moment. So if they've got like a physical product or a physical location, which is really kind of hard to communicate in images or a PowerPoint presentation. It's like we've got like architects using it to kind of look collaboratively design spaces. We had a Canadian fuel company who wanted to visualize their trucks, be able to walk around and see the different options. So that's the way I see the metaverse as being like really useful. And we do a lot of work in heritage as well. So we were at the West Midlands 5G testbed this morning. So we were testing out our heritage application, which allows people to go to a museum, look at all the different objects, and then scan the code of the object, and it would download a 3D model to their device, so they can essentially go around the museum, find the objects they like, and take it home with them, and then view them in 3D or on a VR headset.
That's
so
awesome.
That's crazy.
you
So
know,
could you just rewind for me? Because I
yeah,
really want to get into this metaverse.
Yeah.
So I'll go onto a website or onto the internet. I
Yeah.
can then tap into a room.
yeah.
I have to put my VR set on in order to interact with people.
Not necessarily. Now, this is the thing. So some people think the metaverse is you have to have a VR headset on and it's like a VR experience. But actually, you can walk around a 3D space, from a top view, or actually walk around like you would in a game. But I think mainly what it is, it's about having that sort of social connection. So rather than you just playing a game or you being in that virtual space, you can do it collectively. So it's kind of like having like you can sort of run events in there. You could have meetings in there, like collectively in a virtual space, and that's what it is. And thing is, right, remember, I don't know if you guys remember Second Life from back in the day, where that was like kind of like an attempt at the metaverse. But I think that because the technology has moved on now, you could run, those things would used to run on like quite decent machines. Now that can run on your mobile phone, so it's going to be more accessible. And I think there's one thing that's driving more of this stuff is it's the advancing technology. Like, VR headsets are very cheap now. So this one that I've got behind me, the Quest, it's only £300, whereas like a couple of years ago, no, I know, but the thing is, a couple of years ago that was like, it would have been like £1,500 for all the kit, and you need all the cables and everything, and that comes in like a little bag like that. So before we used to turn up, like I used to work for an engineering company before, doing research and development into like VR devices, and like we used to go and set up, and there were like tons of cables and devices and stuff you had to install. That kind of it comes in a little package. It's so easy. Like my mum could use it. Like, I do put it on my mum sometimes, and like she can my father-in-law's 60th birthday, we actually bought him one, and he uses it to sort of visit Crete and go to like visit Africa and all the places that he'd like to visit. And like he can do 360 tours of Kerala and places like that. So yeah,
I'm trying to figure out like that. I'm quite an emotional person, so I'm thinking of like feelings, thoughts, like how am I gonna feel like going and seeing Africa in the metaverse, if that makes sense. Or do you know what I mean? It's hard to comprehend, if I'm being honest with you.
And I think you're right, because a lot of the metaverse has not even been decided yet, and everyone has their own take on it. It's like when the internet first came along, some people were like, no, I'm going to create a library online. Some people were like, no, I want to put music on there and create, MySpace. And some people were, no, it's about social interaction. Some people it's about having access to information. So I think with the metaverse, it's going to be different as well. And there's a lot of sort of like ethical concerns about how we interact with each other online. And these kind of things, they haven't been sort of like decided yet. You know what I mean? So the thing is, it's kind of very, very loose at the moment, and everyone have a different interpretation of it. So I think it can be, it's like the internet, it's whatever you make of it, like in it. And I think the metaverse is going to be whatever you make of it. So
I immediately thought, when you were talking about going to Africa or wherever with a headset, I immediately thought of like old folks in an old folks home or something who are kind of like stuck in one place, can't really go anywhere else. And that's kind of the flip side of the coin, isn't it? If you can give them an experience where they feel like they can see the sea again, or they can um,
Definitely, yeah.
see,
I mean, we did a project with a charity that deal with, so they have a call center where they're dealing with, people who have suffered child abuse as children. So this is quite heavy topics, and it can be quite taxing on the people who are, managing those lines. So we did some training with them, looking at using VR headsets to kind of take them out of their space and making it more meditative, and taking them out of their environment and getting their mind off what they're doing by playing games and things like that. And they, they actually adopt VR headsets as part of their call center strategy now. So they've got like 3 headsets actually there, which the call center staff are able to use whenever they want. Wow, so I think there are some amazing ways of using it, and I myself have I've developed my own sort of like. And I think that's what it comes down to, is whatever your interpretation, whatever your passion is, that's probably what you will do in the metaverse. So like, and so our passion is about education, teaching people about these technologies and stuff like that. So we've made a learning space for people to come in and like run around. The first time we used it, we had like 8-9 people in there, and we were like jumping all over the tables, having fun. But we've had like different objects in there you could interact with. There were puzzles you could do together, and it was kind of really interesting to see how different people sort of interacted. And I think that what's going to be really interesting is where you've got like neurodiverse people, people with ASD, autism, and neurological,
needs.
Your sensory needs, and how are they going to deal with it? Because if you're in a VR space, you can easily kind of switch everyone off.
That's true.
And you're finding, we're also hearing like people who are in public spaces online, where you've got like VR spaces online, which are available now, online concerts are available and all these kind of things, where people with those types of conditions are feeling uncomfortable because of the proximity or because of the lights or the sensory difficulty they're having. So again, the same sorts of issues and, policies that we have in real life are going to have to be sort of like reiterated and reestablished in the metaverse as well, so that people have control of their experience. And so it's still really early stages, and nobody's got like a monopoly on it. I know that Facebook are trying to sort of like be the first in there, but really it's going to be sort of like a democratic thing, like the internet, really.
And talking about innovation, do you think that like Birmingham is a exciting place for innovation?
Yeah, I do. I think that Birmingham has its problems, no denying it, because it's ranked as not being very highly innovative in comparison to other cities in the country. However, there I think are some amazing organisations and amazing businesses out there, and amazing support frameworks that can really push and support innovation. So you've got the universities, you've got VCU, you've got Aston University that's doing some wonderful stuff with prototyping and 3D printing, like really advanced stuff. The University of Birmingham also doing some wonderful stuff. Then you've got University of Warwick. All these universities are really supporting innovation, and we work very closely with them and do a lot of signposting. And then you've got organisations that are doing quite a lot of work that are supporting businesses. There's too many to mention. But I know Taran mentioned BOM earlier, Birmingham Open Media. So they really hit on the social aspects, social arts and technology aspects, and there's opportunity in Birmingham as well. So you've got the likes of the Commonwealth Games, which is going to be shining a spotlight on Birmingham. You've got the new train station, high speed train station coming into the centre. It's going to be transformative, and also with the government's recent levelling up agenda to try and encourage innovation to happen outside of the usual areas down in the southeast. Then there's a huge amount of opportunity, I think, for Birmingham. So I think it's one of those watch this space, because there's way more to come.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
Cool. What about yourself, Taran? Do you think Birmingham?
Yeah. there's so much going on, like, and like Clayton said about, the investment through HS2. We've seen a lot of companies like BBC, HSBC, BT, and KPMG sort of like relocate and really focus on Birmingham. So, and that's because they can see the massive potential here. With HS2 coming, they see it as a strategic sort of hub, central to the country. And I mean, we've got such an amazing diversity, creativity, amazing organizations like Steamhouse, Creative Alliance. We've got Create Central, Bomb, all these sorts of areas. And just like when I started my business, I mean, I was good at what I did, which was, immersive technologies, but I knew nothing about business. I was completely scared. I didn't know what to do. The lockdown was just coming, because I left my job about 9 months before the lockdown hit. But like Steamhouse was like a godsend, really. I don't think I would be where I am now if Steamhouse hadn't been there. Being able to get that support, like with, how to run a business, how to run your finances, IP, and the personal support you get in, the encouragement that you got. Because I was literally like scared, like, I didn't know what I was going to do. And they just kind of gave me the confidence through the support, and like really sort of challenged me as well a little bit. And I'm really like thankful for that. It really kind of helped me start up my business and grow it. And now we're like a team of 8 people, and we've done work for, in Canada, America, internationally. We went to a trade mission in Malta recently as well. And like there's so much going on, and like there's a really big community spirit here in Birmingham, where people are thinking actually more about the areas in Birmingham. I'm from Handsworth, So we're going to be running an innovation event there. We're going to be inviting like Steamhouse there. So because what we find is that areas like this, deprived areas like where I'm from, we usually either get a brain drain, or we don't get access to the technology. The innovation centers are in other places. So what we want to try and do is like bring these technologies, these amazing organizations, and give them a place in these communities where they can sort of start to sort of expose young people to these technologies and say, these are the possibilities, and sort of raising aspirations, and letting them understand that these are all kind of attainable and within your grasp, because the tools are free now, and it's just about you putting the effort in. And I think I mean, like when I was younger, all I needed was like somebody to just come up to me and say, you can do it, and I believe in you. And I think that we need to do that for the next generation now. And so we've all got a duty to kind of band together. Let's get into these communities. Let's help these young people, especially during COVID. They've been hit hard. And and I've always said that innovation is not about technology, it's about people. Because if people don't understand it, or they don't have access to it, your innovation isn't going to work. And this is what we say to a lot of our clients, that you can't just force technology on your people. You've got to allow them to learn and understand it and take ownership of it. And if they don't have ownership of it, then they will reject it. So this is kind of happening here in a big way, and like it's really great to see.
And I think it's great that you're actually setting up in Handsworth and giving those young people the opportunity to actually access technology that they probably wouldn't normally, unless maybe on Fortnite at home or on the computer. So I think it's so cool that you're actually giving those young people that opportunity. It's been such a great interview, guys. I'm having such a blast. But there's one question that we ask all of our guests. Dun, dun, dun. It's about that time then.
Okay, hit him. Let's go.
So, Clayton, you first. What makes Birmingham bold?
I can only say the people. I'm not originally from Birmingham. I'm from Nottingham, but I've been in Birmingham since 1990 ever. And I just love it, and I think it comes down to the people. I think there's a real spirit in Birmingham, and a real passion, and you see it in there's an energy there, I think, and it's quietly relaxed, but also it's there's a desire, there's a passion to kind of press things forward, move things forward. I'm going to put it down to the people of Birmingham. I love Birmingham.
I love that. Great answer. What about yourself, Taran? What makes Birmingham bold?
Yeah, I think what makes Birmingham bold is the diversity we have here. Diverse communities, diverse food, diverse areas of the city, and I think that gives us a unique strength there because we, especially with like international trade at the moment, we've got all these different connections to around the world. I mean, it's one of the places where you can eat from any corner of the world if you want, so I would say, yeah, our strength is our diversity and our community.
Absolutely love that. Thank you so much, Taran and Clayton, for sharing so much knowledge today on I can't even say it now. Metaverse. Steamhouse has been absolutely amazing. Like, even I've genuinely learned something new today, and I'm sure our listeners will learn something new also. You can catch this episode on all of the Birmingham City Council website. We're also available on Apple and Spotify, and you can catch us on YouTube. Click and find us on Be Bold, Be Birmingham. I think that's the wrap, Ben.
I
Thanks
think
a
that's
lot,
the wrap.
guys.
Thanks so
Cheers.
much for your time, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Awesome.